KC Joyner, ESPN.com, NFL Insider here with us as we break down another game where the Eagles come up short. And, you know, they're in these games. Yeah, they weren't in the Bengals game. They didn't play well against Seattle and Green Bay. But a lot of these games, Casey, the Giants, the Lions, the Cowboys, both Redskins games, I mean, they're a play from that record maybe being flip-flopped. Where are they coming up short? When you look at this team as a whole now that they've been eliminated, where do they come up short?
It's just those. I want to say it's those little things, but it is just one player here, one player there. Like look at McKelvin. Yeah, he gets the interception return for the touchdown, but he also gets beat for that big play on the touchdown. And last year he was one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and this year he's kind of mediocre. They have that tackle give up the big play at the end of the game to allow the sack for the fumble. The end of the game. And but so it's like, okay, and if McKelvin's taking a step back, could be injury related, and having a backup tackle give up a sack. Okay, well that might be a personnel issue. But I look at that the touchdown play by Washington. The play where they did a fake jet sweep, and then they did what they call a flip 90 play off of that. That's a very creative play, and it was well executed, but it was also, you could see that they said, hey, we think this is a play we want to save for a very important time of the game because we think we can catch Philadelphia out of position. And that, when you think another coach thinks he can catch your team out of position, that says something about the coach.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles are certainly, yesterday they were banged up, shorthanded. They're shorthanded to begin with. You look at this roster, they obviously need help at wide receiver, right? I mean, is that if you're Howie Roseman this offseason, wide receiver, cornerback, where do you go first?
Go cornerback first. Al Davis used to always say that you needed as many cornerbacks as you can get on your team, that you never want to be caught short of cornerbacks, let's just say. And right now, I think the Eagles have, especially with McKelvin, let's say he gets healthy and gets back to where he was last year. So he'll take a step up. You can look at the corners and say, you've got players you can slot in certain places. They're just out of position. You don't want to put Nolan Carroll as your top guy. If you have him as your dime, you're fine. Jalen Mills probably got to get rid of entirely. But, I mean, you've got a couple guys in place, and you've got good safeties. So you just need some help there. But you probably got to be able to go 4 or 5 deep with, maybe that's aiming too high, but you ideally want to go at least 4 deep at corner, maybe 5 deep with solid players. And right now, I think the Eagles go maybe 2 to 3 deep. So you start there, and then you get to receivers. You can still play call players open if you don't have great receivers.
Yeah, well, they're having trouble, scoring points this year. They haven't been able. I mean, they were in that, the red zone. It seemed like they were living on the Washington side of the field and couldn't get into the end zone yesterday. I mean, that has been a problem for them all year long. Is that lack of talent, bad play calling, just, the way the ball bounces sometimes? I mean, you have those years where you just aren't very good in that area?
I think it is lack of talent. I think that when you get that close, you get to that compressed field. See, we talk about play calling players opening. You can do that, but usually you have to have a lot of space to do it. Once you start getting inside the 20-yard line, and then once you get on the 15 or 10-yard line, you're really compressing the field. This isn't the Canadian League where you've got the 20-yard end zone. I mean, you get a very small space to work in, and because of that, you can't really play call people open as effectively. You've got to be able to just get them open, and the Eagles just don't have the players to get open, although I did like what they did with the tight end yesterday. So, I mean, they've got some players there, too, and they've got Matthews. I still don't think they're as far away from being a top-notch team, top-notch passing offense as would generally be seen, but they've got to get a guy to be to break the top off the defense player and a guy who can just win matchups in the end zone. Neither a Des Bryant or an Odell.
Yeah, I mean, you got Carson Wentz, okay, and what you've seen from him through the 13 games this year. We talked a lot earlier in the show today, Casey, about the fact that this team hasn't won a playoff game since 2008. And some people believe, there's a losing culture here, and Howie Roseman has been the constant. And I would go back and say, well, they haven't had a quarterback, really, since 2008. When they traded McNabb away, they went from Cobb to Vic to Foles to Sanchez to, you name it. They seem like they got a snap here in Philadelphia. Do you feel secure 13 games through that they finally have that long-term guy that can quickly turn this thing around? Because that's the problem sometimes. You get a guy, he has no help, and, that hinders you. But he seems to be the kind of guy that you talk about that makes other guys, can make other guys better. He's not doing it right now because this team, he'll throw the ball, they drop it. But does he seem like the guy that you just kind of can say, all right, we could take that check off the checklist. We don't need to worry about that position for a long time?
Yeah, I wouldn't be thinking. I mean, you want to get more depth at that position, maybe. Of course, you always want to have as much quarterback talent as you can get. But as far as starting quarterback, if I'm the Eagles, I'm thinking quarterback's not the problem. He's a rookie. We've not been giving him as good a pass protection of late. Hey, he was driving him down to a game-winning score yesterday when the tackle just, I don't know what 64 was doing on that last play. He completely gave up the corner, and Wentz didn't even see the rusher coming, even though it was front side, because he got beat that cleanly. So that's not on him, and the fact that he doesn't have very good receivers, that's not on him either. His mechanics, people were talking about how bad his mechanics. From looking at him yesterday, and we were taking a very close look at his mechanics going, I don't see big mechanics problems. He's accurate. He was 7 of 11 on vertical passes. That's a really good number. So, what I saw yesterday and what we've seen for the most part of the season is this guy has what you want. He has the base to be the type of quarterback you want to be. So if I'm the Eagles, I'm taking quarterback off the list. And I think you're right that that's the big issue for what's been the problem in the past few years, because their talent on the rest of the team has been up to par. It's just they haven't had a quarterback.
All right. You look at, this team yesterday, they got the quarterback throwing the ball 40-plus times again, 60 last week, 40-plus times again. You wonder why they didn't continue to run the ball. Ryan Matthews was having a nice day, 60 yards on the ground. The offensive line had some injury issues, but it seems that, again, they just decided to get away from that running game.
Yeah, they only had good blocking on just under a third of their plays. Only 7 out of 24 running plays did they have good run blocking. It's not a very good percentage. So they were doing okay there. The game flow also put them in a situation where they had to throw a lot too. And the thing is you're putting the offense in a bad situation when Kirk Cousins on vertical passes. Kirk Cousins only tried 8 vertical passes yesterday. He completes 6 of them for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, 22.5 yards per attempt. I mean, you just, you're at that point, you've got to ask your offense to, you're going to get in, if not a shootout game, you got to ask your offense to throw the ball a lot, because you can't keep giving up those kind of, only 8 passes. He's only throwing the ball downfield. It's even at least 11 yards. We're not talking stretch vertical where he's going 20. We're talking just at least 11 yards downfield. And again, 180 yards, 6 out of 8. It was just, it's brutal. And so, I mean, the offense has kind of got to be in that situation where we're going to have to try and play that kind of catch up.
Deshaun Jackson yesterday, another 80-yard bomb. He seems like he gets one every time they play. If they were there's a lot of talk about him coming back to Philadelphia. Is he just what the doctor ordered here? I mean, would he be the perfect fit for this team and this offense?
They need the vertical threat. They just don't have the guy to be a vertical threat. Jackson's had fantastic numbers over the years in vertical numbers, even when he hasn't been up to par this year, which he's taken a step back over where he was last year, but where his numbers this year have fallen off some. But again, his numbers have fallen off some, and you see what he did yesterday, and you see what he's done actually about the last 3 games once he's been healthy again. So if he stays healthy, I mean, he's not a guy you're going to throw 120, 130, 140 targets to. But if you say, I've got Deshaun Jackson, and I'm going to be able to throw him maybe 100 targets a season, and maybe 40 to 50 of them are going to be vertical, maybe 20 to 30 are going to be stretch vertical, and he can play close to where he played here, now you're giving Wentz the ability to start to develop into becoming a greater player, and that could be the bridge between having a long-term great receiver and what they have right now. Maybe if they can't get that great receiver, in the draft, or develop somebody like OBJ or Dez, maybe this will give you a bridge to find that guy over the next few years.
Why is it a guy like Zach Ertz, okay, how do you view him as a guy who watches a lot of tape? You see him in this offense. He's had games yesterday, 10 catches for 115 yards or whatever it was. He's had games where he had 15 catches. They all seem to keep coming against Washington. How do you view him as a player?
Well, again, you're right. He does it against Washington. It does seem to be that he gets double digits against those guys. Tight ends. It's funny. There are limited route sets that you can use with tight ends. There's just only so many things you can do with them where you've got them set up and where they're structured in an offense. You really can't make them vertical threats, or stretch vertical threats. Like some even top tight ends only see like 3, 4, 5 stretch vertical targets over the course of a whole season. Stretch verticals, we're going 20 more yards downfield. So there's a limitation of the things you can do with them. So you can't make them the centerpiece of your offense. But between him and Burton, you've got a quality tight end set. So I think he's really good, and I think you can use him against teams that have weaknesses in covering tight ends. I don't know that you're going to make him into a Tony Gonzalez though.
All right, KC Joyner is with us here. Eagles 5-8, pretty much eliminated. In fact, they are eliminated from the NFL playoffs. Is this team far? You think this is a team that's still years, or you see next year we're having this conversation on this December day. We're not talking about what's going on next year. We're talking about possibly getting ready for a playoff run?
From a personnel perspective, I'd say yeah, but I still have questions as if their coaching is up to par. I don't know that their coaching is where it should be, and it could be. It's a lot of we've seen the team get out coached, and again, that play at the end of the game, it's really creative. Fake the jet sweep, do the flip 90. It's very creative, and it's okay. You can tell Washington saved that play up, but that means they knew they had some kind of a weakness. They could catch Philadelphia, and they could line up a certain way, and they knew they get Philadelphia to line up a certain way with them. And that says something. That means that the team found you to be predictable. And so from a personnel perspective, I say yeah, but I still think Philadelphia, in order to get where they want to get, I don't know that they're not going to have to make a coaching change at some point and say, hey, we've got to get somebody else in here. Because I think talent-wise, they've got what they're close enough to where they get what they need to where I could think they can make a playoff run next year. But if you've got bad coaching, you can screw up talent real easy.
Well, we'll see where that pick ends up for them, where they target in the first round. They haven't drafted a corner in the first round since 2002, which was Lito Shepherd.
Yep, and they're going to be, I'll tell you, the thinness of the quarterbacks in the 2017 draft, people are going to start going, wow, that Carson Wentz move is a really wise move because there's a guy named Mitch Trubisky from North Carolina. He's an accurate passer and things, but he's a project. And in fact, pretty much every quarterback in the 2017 draft is going to look like a project. So when people start thinking, well, they shouldn't have moved up for Wentz and things after you see 2017 draft, I bet a lot of change going to change a lot of minds as to the Eagles' forward thinking in that move.
Yeah, because it seems like you look at this team and the two areas where they're really deficient is corner and wide out. If you could find two of those guys, you can turn things around pretty quickly in the next season.
Yep, and I don't think they need. I mean, it would be great to have an OBJ or a Dez or somebody like that. Get one of those elite receivers. But I think they just have to get an upgrade overall. And there's enough talent in this draft, both at cornerback and wide receiver. There's enough out there to where you could say, okay. I'm just thinking there's a guy named Dede Westbrook at Oklahoma. I don't know if the Eagles will be able to get him or not, but Dede Westbrook is he's been a phenom in the last 10 weeks. He's put like 16 touchdowns. He's doing it against some solid competition and things. And I think, man, if you get a guy like that and you add him to another receiver and you get him in just a couple of good cornerbacks in, and you start plugging some of those holes and get and get some vertical plays and stop taking the vertical plays off the top, you could easily flip the record from 5-8 to 8-5.
All right, let's look at a couple things from yesterday. Get a couple quick hits from you. First, we'll start with St. Louis. Los Angeles, they finally fired Jeff Fisher, 4-9. What was the downfall of Fisher? 22 years he's been in the league. We know the losses. I counted up 6 double-digit winning seasons. This is interesting. We're talking a lot about the Eagles, and the other night I was going back and forth with an old high school buddy of mine. The Eagles have had, in the 2000s, 10 double-digit winning seasons. Jeff Fisher has 6 in 22 years as a head coach. So your thoughts on Fisher and then finally getting fired?
Fisher always had his teams play hard. You didn't see Fisher's teams give up, and that was even that. I can remember back in the mid-2000s with the Titans, and they were just a mash unit and just were in terrible shape physically, and they never quit on the guy, even though they didn't have the talent. And it was really, really inspiring to see the Rams threw in the talent. The team, you could see them. They were down 42-0 yesterday. They were listless. But I also think a big part of why L.A. might have made the move the way they did is maybe they have Jim Harbaugh on their minds.
You're not the first guy saying that today. I got people tweeting at me, giving me the hate tweets. They look like Michigan fans, by the way. But, hey, we'll see if Harbaugh ends up I'm sure his name will be the first to come up. Thoughts last night on the Giants getting the better of the Cowboys for the second time this year?
Was worried about Dak Prescott, looking that either they didn't want him to throw vertical against that defense or he didn't want to throw vertical, because there were times, even at the end of the game, when they were down and it's like, hey, you need a big play, and he's throwing 3-yard passes. Like, okay, that's not what you need. This is not the game situation. So I'm wondering if we might see Dak starting to get into, if you can take the vertical pass away and get a lead on them, if we're going to start seeing some limitations out of him we haven't seen earlier in the year.
So what's the blueprint? What did we learn about stopping them?
That you can stop their passing game. For one, well, first, if you got to be as good as the Giants, because Giants have a very good pass defense. So if you can take away their vertical game and you can keep Ezekiel Elliott in check, I mean, he still had a solid game last night. If you can keep him in check, that offense, if you can take, I think if you can take Dez out of their offense, I think if you say we can stop Dez, you can stop their offense.
What happened to Seattle yesterday? Just, bad road team, bad day? I mean, what do you make of that?
When you don't have Earl Thomas and the Packers, who have been running a kind of spread offense and attacking the field, they're instead of doing the power running and vertical, they've been doing a lot of spread offense and stretching the field out. I think that's not the kind of game Seattle is very good at playing. They want to play power football. And if you get them to play speed football like they did yesterday, it's a bad combination for them.
KC Joyner with us, looking back at the games that mattered yesterday. Tampa Bay wins again. You looking at Tampa Bay as a playoff team?
Tampa Bay, since Week 9, ranks third in the league in pass pressure, according to ESPN stats information. They're getting after the passer in a serious way. Their secondary is not that good talent-wise. They even had a backup free safety yesterday, and yet they still held Drew Brees to what? He had 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and Brees has 0 touchdowns and 6 interceptions over the past 2 games. I mean, they're taking a good passing game and shutting it down. So I think that team, and they got Charles Sims back now, so I think the Buccaneers are a very dangerous club. They can make some noise.
What do you I know we keep asking about Detroit, it seems like every week. They're down every single week, and they have to pull out a home game against a horrible Bears team yesterday.
Yeah, and the thing is Bill James used to talk about that. He said if you're looking for the sign of a really good team, you don't look for a team that can make comebacks or win close games. You want to see teams that win games big, because when you start to take a look at the teams that win close games, a lot of times luck ends up being a factor. I'm not calling them lucky, but I'm not seeing a team, a 9-4 team that's the second best team in the NFC. I don't see that when I break it down the tape. That's not. I see a good team, but a good team that's getting a couple breaks and things, and you can't count on breaks going their way the rest of the season. So I think that they're going to run into a stumbling block either during a regular season, or I think they're going to stumble in the playoffs. I don't think they go very far.
How about Tennessee beating Denver?
Tennessee Titans may have the best offensive line in the league. They've got a really good running game because of that. Mariota is, I'm telling you, people kind of forgot about him after last year and said, okay, he's just a good rookie and things. This guy is, I think, is a top 10 quarterback right now. Since Week 4, he was last in the league in total QBR through Week 4, and I believe he's third in the league in total QBR since then. This guy, he's a legit MVP candidate this year. He won't get it, but he's a legit MVP candidate based on how he's played the last 9 weeks, and he'll be a legit MVP candidate next year.
Who's the favorite in the NFC?
That's a tough call. I'd still have to say Dallas, because most of the teams in the NFC, if you start looking at the other contenders, I don't think Seattle now necessarily has the secondary to shut down the vertical game unless, they can make the transition from Thomas, and I think it's a big step down. I don't think Detroit's secondary is that good. You start looking at teams going, who can mimic what the Giants did, and I don't know that many teams can. So the Cowboys still can dictate the pace, and if they can do that, they win. Although if they face the Giants in the playoffs, I'd favor the Giants.
Is New England the clear favorite in the AFC?
I think people think they are, but Tom Brady, since Week 9, ranks 20th in the league in yards per attempt. He's not been doing very well in vertical passes. Gronk's not there. Bennett's banged up. Amendola's out. And I know they got Malcolm Mitchell, but Malcolm Mitchell is a one-trick pony. He's a vertical receiving guy. He's been that since his days at Georgia. So they've got a really tough test tonight, because Baltimore, first in the league in rush defense, fifth in the league in yards per attempt, the best special teams in the NFL. I think New England could lose tonight, and I think that you're going to start seeing a blueprint for how to beat them, which is that they cannot throw the ball very effectively, and you can limit their passing game. I think they can be outscored.
That's Baltimore, New England tonight, 97.3 ESPN. KC Joyner here breaking it all down, and of course, the Eagles get ready for those Ravens. They'll play there on Sunday. And the Sports Bash, of course, will be all over that. You can listen to that game on 97.3. Well, pal, we're running out of weeks of football. I'm really sad.
Yeah, definitely so. The season's closing up, and but it's going to be playoff time, and even though it's not going to probably involve the Eagles, it's going to be still going to be a fun postseason.
All right, pal. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man.